Time for sound design. In this video I continue to explore the records that I got from my trip to Japan, and today I'm gonna look at this record that I got from Ginza Records and Audio in Tokyo. But instead of using one sample, I actually used 4 different bits of the same track, and I want to show you how I did that in Ableton. So this record is a single, which means it has 2 tracks, one on each side. It's a 45 RPM record, and on side A, at the end of the track, that's where I took the sample from. I will link to this record in the description as well. And the piece of the record that I recorded at the end of the track sounds like this. So you can hear already there's multiple parts where there are like open tones, open sections that are ideal for sampling. So let's get into Ableton and let's start with the first sample that I used from this track. So the first thing I did is I loaded up a sampler and loaded in the sample. So here you can see the sample, same as the one here on top. And I actually only used really the last bit of the sample. So if we play the original sample, that's the kind of part that I used. There's no looping going on in a sampler, so it's basically a one-shot. There's no filter automation or any other kind of modulation. The only thing what I added is a simple filter. And then especially when you play it lower than the original key, it sounds nice. And because it's the end of the record, there's a little bit of vinyl crackle in the sample, and that is kind of a nice addition to the sound. So you create a bit of character in that way. Then what I did, I put some MIDI notes in, and it sounds like this. And this is kind of the main melody of the track. Then for the last part, the variation, I play a shorter notes, and then you get this kind of more textural element. So these notes are really short. They're about 1/64th in length, so they're very short. So that's the main part of the beat. And then for the second sample, I created another instrument in sampler, and I wanted something that's a bit longer. So now we have a quite short, kind of stabby sound. So what I did is I loaded up another sampler, the same sample as you can see, but earlier in the sample there's a bit of an open part that sounds like this. That's the part. So when loading that into sampler, you get this. And then putting the sustain mode on forward backward, you can make it sustain infinitely. Bit of crossfade. And of course tune it. So, and then with a low cut EQ and some delay, some auto panning, you have this sound. And then I play just one continuous E. So together with the first sample. So that's a nice combination of 2 different parts of the sample and 2 different kinds of sound. So kind of a short sound with a delay and a longer sustained kind of pad sound. Then for the third sample, it is this little transition from part 1 to part 2. And it sounds like this. And what I did is that I cut out tiny little bits and reversed one. And it's from this part of the sample. So it's before the last part. The guitar sound, and it really is basically a transition from one part to the other. So together with the other 2 samples, it sounds like this. So it's a little glitch before the main pad sound comes in, basically. For the fourth track where I use the same sample, I basically used similar as for the second instrument. So I used this part of the sample and I repeated it 4 times. And then on top of that, I used an auto filter with some filter automation to filter the sample down, kind of a DJ style kind of trick. So that sounds like this. And that's also as a transition to the first part again. So then when I play the first part, let's play it from here. So these are the 4 tracks that use the same sample, different parts of it. So 2 of them are instruments and 2 of them are just audio chops on the timeline. And once I had this, it was time to add, of course, a bass line, which is an operator, sub bass, and then also some extra synths in the third part. So for the bass line, I just use the operator subsine preset that I often use. So it's a very basic synth sound, but it really works well. To have that kind of deep bass that follows the main melody, and then I added some extra notes. And then for the third part, since there is no pad sound, it becomes a bit too empty. I added 2 chords. So as you can see here, and some automation of the filter. So that sounds like this. And that's basically all the melodic parts of this track. So 4 tracks of samples and 2 of a synthesizer, the operator and the drift synthesizer from Ableton. And then with some drums, it sounds like this. So that's the track I made from this sample, from this record, linked in the description. Hopefully this is inspiring you to look at sampling and not just take one sample from one record, but you can actually take multiple samples from the same record and use them for different elements in your track. The good thing about taking multiple samples from the same record is, of course, that they are already in the same key. If you're interested in sampled instruments, I have 2 libraries over on Gumroad that contain sampled instruments for Ableton Live, so go check it out. It's a free download. As always, keep making music. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.